Bishop Sherman D.Manning. I'm in Beverly Hills, standing in front of one of the most expensive jewelry stores in Beverly Hills. It's called Peter Marco, and I'm going to see if I can land an interview with Peter Marco. He looks busy, but I'm going to give it a shot. Nothing wrong with trying, right? See if he'll tell us how he got rich, he got wealthy, etc., so forth and so on. Let's see if Peter Marco Bishop today. Okay? So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a shot. Oh. Mr. Marco.
Yes, sir.
How did you get rich?
Working hard.
But listen, I like the jacket, man. I like the jacket. Okay. I'm Bishop Manning.
Hi, Bishop. Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you. I pastor Yes We Can Worship Center in LA, and I house the homeless in LA. And I'm always trying to tell homeless people how to succeed. I know you're busy. You only got a couple of minutes. I'm just wondering. So if you were a person, I have some guys who work 8 hours a day, but they just can't afford to get housing because they can't get first. And what would you tell them? How do you get here? Because you didn't get here playing games. This is one of the most expensive jewelry stores I've read in the country. Yeah. How long have you been here?
In this location,
Yes.
25 years.
25 years.
I'm 63. I've been doing this since I'm 15.
15?
Yes, it's a lifetime passion.
So let me ask you, I know you're a jeweler, you own the store. Are you a gymnologist? Explain that.
So, I never went to GIA and took the courses, but when you're working with stones and diamonds and rubies, emeralds, sapphires since you're 15, it's kind of a different training. GIA teaches you a little bit more about densities and minerals, materials, and stuff like that. More of the technical stuff. But I'm more of a hands-on guy. Like I learned by just doing it for so many years.
But you know what you're looking at.
Oh yes.
Okay.
I like to think so.
Okay.
On a good day.
Okay. All right. And I saw someone else do an interview with you a long time ago. I don't ask personal questions, but let me ask you this. So you're 63. How long have you been a millionaire? So you were.
First of all, God blessed me.
God is good.
Because I came from a very poor family.
Wow.
In a very poor neighborhood. Grew up without a father. And then I lost my mother. She moved away. She had passed away when I was 15.
Okay.
So I went out and got my own apartment in New York, and you grow up real quick. So as a young man, before I was 20, I did really well.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how did you get here? How did you get your own store? So you started out working in jewelry stores for other people?
No, a factory in New York.
Okay.
It was a factory. I went up there cleaning bathrooms and vacuuming and dusting and Windexing and for the summer.
Wait a minute. Do y'all hear that, young people? Cleaning? Say that again. You started doing what?
Cleaning laboratories, dusting, vacuuming. It was a big factory, probably one of the 10 highest in the United States at that time. This was 1976. It was a manufacturer of high-end jewelry. It was sort of like the Rolls Royce of jewelry. It was super luxury. And they had a big factory, they had a showroom, they had offices, and I was always in and out of trouble, and my mother wanted to get me off the streets when I was 15 years old, for the summer, because I was off the school.
Right.
And she had a friend who had a friend who was working as a jeweler in this place. And so I went up there over the summer. And I really went up there thinking that I was going to do something wrong, maybe rob the place or something, because I was in that mindset.
Right.
And something just came over me. The people were so nice. It was 1975, 76, and jewelers were making like $75,000 a year back then.
A lot of money back then.
Designers were making $100,000 a year. There were people making over $200,000. There was really, and it just changed me. It was like, back then you were taught to be a doctor or a lawyer.
Right.
I barely made it through high school. There was no way I was going to college and medical school, law school, whatever it was. And so I had to then learn a trade and hustle. And one day the messenger boy called out sick, and they asked me to fill in.
Okay.
And it sounds funny, but I was walking around with $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 worth of valuables, picking up diamonds, gold, platinum, rubies, emeralds, sapphires. And I proved to them I was not only a good cleaner, but I was trustworthy.
Yes.
And then one day the owner said, "Hey Pete, my office needs vacuuming." And true story, he put a 10-carat diamond on the floor. And I went in there to vacuum, and he left the office, and I'm vacuuming, and I'm like, oh my God, what is that? I picked it up and, you know, of course it goes through your mind, you know, put it in your pocket or whatever, and I gave it back to him. And he tested me a number of times,
Right.
and then he kind of like adopted me. He took me under his wing.
Wow.
He wrote a letter to my guidance counselor at school. I was supposed to go to school from 7:30 in the morning to 3:30 to just get enough credits to graduate high school. And I wound up going to school from 7:30 to 11:30. Worked at the company from 12 to 6. And then in 14th Street, Union Square, Manhattan, there's a school called Washington Irving. And I went to night school there from 6:30 to 9:30. And I did that for 3 years to get enough credits to graduate high school.
Wow.
Now I come home one day and I'm 15, and my mother had a real hard life, and she said, I met someone, and he's got a marble business in Europe, and we're all moving to Europe, we're getting a house by the water, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, Mom, all the Greeks and Italians come to America to make money. I don't want to go there. And she said, look, the law in New York is 18, you're underage, you're 15. And then I said, we were arguing.
Okay.
And this man had a very hardcore European mentality. And he was like, leave him here. He's going to call us up in a week or 10 days crying, send me a ticket.
Okay.
So at 15 years old, I went out and I got an apartment, a studio apartment, in an illegal studio apartment, in a 3-bedroom or 3-family house in Astoria, Queens. And I worked, I went to school, paid my bills, I did my homework, I cooked, I cleaned, and you grow up real quick when you're alone. And of course, everybody at the company, all the secretaries, they saw it, they knew what was going on, and they had a lot of pride and respect for me, and they, you know, invite me over my birthdays, my Christmases, my New Year's, my Thanksgiving. Everything was always spent because I had no one here. But it builds character. And you realize you're on your own, and you realize how hard you got to work, and I had no one to fall back on. And so then when everything was cleaned and the deliveries were made, I'd sit down, I watched the jewelers, 9 months later, I was a jeweler.
Wow.
Then I knew diamond setters made more money, so I became a diamond setter. Then he put me in the production department, I learned production. And that's where I picked up all my knowledge of stones. Because I was working with rubies, emeralds, sapphires, diamonds, all qualities, different pieces, rings, earrings, bracelets, necklaces, pendants, everything you could think of. And then I graduate high school. No one's there. I graduate by myself. And I go back to work now, and I can work full time. And the owner says, I'm going to give you an incredible opportunity, Pete. He says, I think you can handle this. So he gave me a bag of jewelry. It was about $4 million, 3 to 4 million, and it was all finished jewelry. And he said, you're going to get in your car. You live in New York. You're going to drive to Hartford, Connecticut, Boston, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. You're going to go to the Yellow Pages. You're going to look up jewelers, rip out the pages. You get a hotel room. You're going to sit down, whichever jeweler is showing the biggest ads for watches or Rolex watches, let's say, or big diamonds, that's the store you want to call on. Because of the quality of this product, if there's 1,000 jewelers in a city, I can only sell the top 1 or 2 because it was high end. Okay, like you have a lot of car dealerships, but you have one Rolls Royce dealership. All right, I came back 2-3 weeks later and I sold. And he said, now you're going to do a big trip. You're going to be gone for a month.
Were you doing commission, by the way?
I was on commission.
Okay.
I had to pay my own expenses.
They
gave me what you call a drawer against commission. So they gave me money each week, which, believe it or not, back then was $2,000. So I went from nothing to getting but I covered all my expenses. It was expensive to travel. Now he said I got in the car, and I went from Jersey to Philadelphia to Delaware to Baltimore to D.C. to the Virginias, Carolina, Atlanta, Florida. I remember
my hometown, Atlanta.
I remember that route because I did it many times. Came back a month later, I sold. For 4 years, 11 and a half months out of the year, because I had no ties, I drove the whole United States. Then I got the courage to get on a plane. Now I'm hopping all over. He says, Pete, one day, it's 6 years later, he says, what you did in the United States, I want you to do it in Europe. I said, all right, what do I got to do? So one of the biggest jewelry shows in the whole world was in Basel, Switzerland. And who went to that show but rich store owners all over Europe. So I went over there, I laid out all the jewelry, and next thing you know, I met owners all over Europe, and I started traveling all over Europe selling jewelry. Then after a couple of years, he said, I want you to do Asia. So I went to Hong Kong, I went to Tokyo, I did the shows. Long story short, for about 25 years, I traveled the whole world selling jewelry. 9/11 came. Met a woman, fell in love. I said, quit your job. She started traveling with me. We traveled the world together. She got pregnant. We traveled up to 8 months.
Okay.
Went back to New York. She gave birth.
Okay.
A month later, we were traveling with a playpen. One of those playpens that folds up into a foot by a
Right.
foot. It's like 4 feet long.
Right.
Then the young man, who's a young man now, he got old enough to go to school.
Okay.
9/11 came, and I'm thinking, I love what I do, but to travel the world was not as safe and secure as it was.
Okay.
So then I said, let me open a store.
All right.
So I was thinking Tokyo, Paris, London, Miami, New York, Vegas. But when you put the whole package together, you know, you're in business 365 days out here
Right.
because of the weather. New York, you're out of business a few months out of the year. You know, overseas, I wanted to stay in the United States, have the European, American currency. So when I waited, I was like, Hollywood, Rodeo Drive, Beverly Hills. So I found this spot, I opened up. Okay, now I open up and I have no inventory.
Inventory,
no
right,
nothing.
right.
So I go to all the people who knew me since I was 15.
Okay.
All these, when I traveled the whole world, I met companies all over the world, manufacturers. And I went to them and I said, look, you know me, you know I'm trustworthy and I'm honest. I want to give you 1 square foot of window space in my 25 feet of windows on Rodeo Drive. Would you support me? Long story short, I opened this store with 325 vendors that gave me millions and millions of dollars on consignment.
Consignment.
I
Okay.
opened it up with basically no money.
Wow.
Although I had the money
Right.
to do it, but I opened it up. You
Right.
know,
Consignment.
Yeah.
OPM. Other people's
right.
money.
So what did I do? I sacrificed profit and margin to develop a clientele.
Okay.
I took business away from every jeweler in the world. Every jeweler on the street just came in less. My stones are GIA certified, so you don't have to trust me for colors or clarities. That's the highest certification in the world. It's international. And what did I do? I just took it away from everyone. It came in less. And I was smart enough to realize that the referrals and the repeats and recommendations is what's going to grow your business. Now I'm an older guy, so I was old school. I ran ads in magazines, Cosmopolitan, Town and Country, all these magazines,
Right.
Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Then today it's TikTok, YouTube, Instagram,
Right,
podcast.
right.
So what do? You sell someone and they tweet you or they Instagram you,
Okay.
they post you.
Right, right.
And without dropping names, to, you know, respect the people. But
Yes.
at this point we're selling almost every music person in the industry, Hollywood, movie stars, the sports world. And what happens is you sell these famous people and they talk about you and they say, hey, Peter Marco, and it just grows.
Right.
You know, I can tell you that I've had people come in here that I never met before from all over the world. I can tell you stories.
Right.
And they came in off of a referral or they're into watches and they're on the computer. The algorithm brought me up to show my watches. They stopped in or they don't stop in.
Right.
And I sell them millions of dollars on referrals.
Do you have to do any advertising now, or do you do any advertising now, or it's all
I don't
word
do
of
any
mouth?
paper magazine.
Okay.
You know, I do podcasts, YouTube,
Okay.
Instagram,
Okay.
TikTok. I
Okay.
do a lot of social media.
Okay,
And,
right.
you know, I'm reaching people all over the world.
Right.
You know, humbly speaking, 25, 30 people a day come by and say, can I take a picture with you? I mean, it's
Yes,
just the craziest thing.
yes,
you know,
yes.
but I live like I have no money. I live like I'm broke. I never made money, my God. You know, people are important to me, and I love bringing happiness to people.
Yes.
And, you know, we're blessed that I don't have to rely on one sale a month where I have to worry about making so much money because it's expensive to be here.
Right.
But we do it in volume. Every day we do so many sales that I can treat the people well, make a little bit, and then, you know, be able to survive here.
Right, right.
And, you know, if you have a car and it's broken, you're not a mechanic. You bring it to someone you trust, you rely on their expertise.
Right,
If
absolutely.
you're not feeling well, you go to the doctor. We're not doctors. You know, we go to the doctor, he tells us this is what you got to do. Everybody wants a jeweler they can call family,
Right.
that's someone they can trust and count on.
Right.
And I tell the people, I don't care if you see something in another store. I don't care what city, state you're in. Call me up. If it's a good deal, the first thing I'm going to do is tell you to grab it. It's a good
Right,
deal.
right.
But if it's not a good deal and I can do better, I'm going to tell you I can do better.
Right. Right.
And I always stay true to my values. And the people know that I put them first. They feel
Now,
it.
what did you develop those values? Because you were basically raising yourself from 15 on. So what do you think contributed to that? The guy you were working for, perhaps, or just life in general? What did you get
I
that?
think that, you know, when you're honest and you're true to your word, I saw results. When I was honest, there was always results that came with that. When I was honorable and I kept to my word and kept appointments, it always worked for me. And so life is kind of easy. It says, treat people the way you want to be
Right,
treated, you know, and you wouldn't want to be taken advantage of.
Right.
You wouldn't want to be overcharged.
Right.
And I just carried those values and morals through my business. And,
Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
there it is. It's in the Bible.
Right.
Yeah, so it's really simple formula.
May I ask what your son is doing now? The
I have
young
two
man?
sons,
Okay.
and they're both involved in the business.
Okay,
One's
okay.
23 and one's 20.
Wow. And so faith has meant a lot to you also?
Absolutely.
Faith? Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm proud to say, not that because you're who you are,
Right.
but at 63, every night I say my prayers. And every night I thank Him because
Right.
this is here today, it could be gone tomorrow.
Right.
You've heard of the richest people in the world with their health problems and
Right.
they pass away. You
And
know,
commit suicide.
So
Yeah.
there's so many more important things. This is a means of living, but it's not what my priority and what's the most important thing in life.
And I'll say this, and later on, when you find out who I am, you'll see that I'm very candid. I've always been candid. So I don't just say things to stroke people's egos, and you probably don't need an ego stroke anyway. But I stood outside and I was looking in, and I saw you, and I was going to keep going. And it's like I felt an anointing here. And I appreciate that. That means a lot to me because of the work that I do. You know, again, I'm not a typical pastor in that we don't even have a Sunday morning service. We have a Friday night service. And all of my people, Pete, are people who are ex-homeless people that I got housing for. I believe in doing the work. And I tell people all the time, my church doesn't have any money because there are people who don't have money, but we got a lot of love and lives are being changed. And this video, I'm going to show it to a lot of people. It'll be on YouTube, but as a young man, Anthony, and I'm going to bring him in to meet you one day. When I met Anthony 3 years ago, he was on Skid Row, homeless, with a crack pipe in one hand and a blanket in the other hand. And God, not me, but God has transformed his entire life. He has not used crystal meth in 3 years. He's a member of Yes We Can Worship Center. And now we're building a tiny homes project. I meet people like you all the time. When I say like you, I mean there's only one you, but I mean people who are successful but who have faith also.
Of course.
Norberto Nardi, famous architect, met him maybe 8 or 9 months ago. He took me to lunch and he said, let's do a tiny homes project together. And I said, Norberto, I ain't got no money. How am I going to do that? He said, we'll raise the money. Don't worry about it. And he did all of the designs pro bono. And so God is working. So I've learned that if you really help people, God will help you. My last question to you is, do you do any public speaking? Because you are a speaker, whether you know it or not.
Thank you.
I can hear it.
You know, I've been invited to talk about, you know, I'm part of a lot of organizations. By the way, I did build tiny homes as well.
Wow,
Yeah, this
wonderful.
was 7, 8 years ago.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And I do speak like I'm a cancer survivor, so the Cancer Foundation wanted me to speak. I spoke in front of like, I don't know, 1,000 women at one point. I have spoken before. I don't necessarily do it.
Right, okay,
It's funny, I had a couple clients like my energy and they asked
Right.
me to marry them. So I got anointed so I could actually marry people.
Right.
So that was a big party I had to speak in front of,
Okay,
you know.
okay,
But
right.
no, I don't do it. I just
Okay.
kind of stick to what I do.
All right, because there are people. I interviewed the chief of police, who's a friend of mine now, the new chief in L.A., Jim McDonald, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I haven't even aired it yet. But I was telling him that he has made me his street bishop. In other words, he speaks for organizations all the time. I said, what about the people who've been to jail? The people who, if they don't hear from a guy like you, they're going to go back to jail. They need to hear from you. The homeless people need to hear from you. So we're organizing some things where he's going to be speaking.
Beautiful.
And I'd love to bring guys like you in, but they'll see this and this is good enough.
Thank you.
But I really appreciate your time. And I heard another young man ask you this question, so I'm going to ask you, what's the best financial advice you've ever gotten in your life?
Again, it's kind of cliche, but just work hard. Love what you do because you'll be better at it. It's not work, it's a hobby. Stay honest, true to your values and morals. I'm 63. I never smoked in my life. I never did a drug and I never drank.
Wow.
I can't drink.
Wow.
So you're always clear-minded and you're focused and you're working hard. And that's my advice.
And if you lost everything tomorrow, do you think you could get it back?
Absolutely. I'd build it back up because it's what's in here.
Right.
It's what's up here. It's
Right.
your values, your morals. It's what you are as a person, as a human being.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. So ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Mr. Marco, this is, look at the jewelry store. And he accepted an interview from a bishop that he's never met. And I just wanted you to see, look at there, look at there, look at there. I like that cross right there. Okay, so thank you for your time, and I'm going to go off here, and then I'll talk to you for a second. Keep the faith, everybody. Yes, we can. Worshipcenter.org.